Karen B says, why can't I find guys that want to commit? I'm 43, tired of games. So, Karen, here's what I suggest that you do. So, you have a question here, which is, why can't I find guys that want to commit to me? Well, that question will lead to certain answers, and most of them aren't going to be overly helpful. Some of them might be. But the real question you want to have instead is you want to change that little why right here over to a how. So how, and then change the question from focusing on the negative to focusing on the positive. How can I find guys, more men who want to commit? Right? And with that question, you're going to have a completely different set of answers that comes to you from it. Because if you change the question to how can I find guys that commit, go ahead. If you're watching right now, answer in the chat. How can she find guys who will commit? You're going to find answers like, I can go where more high quality men are, or I can connect with men in a different and better way, or I can start abundance dating so that I have more men who come into my life and I'm not so caught up on one or more of these men committing because I have more options to choose from. And with my connecting with these men in a different way and, doing all these things, you can start, having more men that actually want to commit to you. Another answer is that you want to make sure that you're not hooking up with guys early or often or soon. We actually had a woman who she commented on one of my videos a while back where she's like, Matthew, your stuff works so well. It's so amazing how well it worked. And it was just one little thing that I changed. And I had no idea. And it was this thing where, I stopped. You told me to stop hooking up with guys so quickly. Stop hooking up with guys in the first few dates. And all of a sudden, now I've got all these guys that want to commit to me, right? And why is that? Because we all, men specifically, value things that they have to work for and earn. And so if he doesn't have to work for and earn you, he's not going to value you as highly. And the more that he values you, the more that he's going to see you as the type of woman that he wants to be in a committed relationship with, in a real relationship with. So I was I was hanging out with a bunch of players about a year and a half, 2 years ago, something like that. And I was just talking to them. I'm friends with some of these guys and some of their friends or whatever. And so we were hanging out and I like to just chat about things that are going on in their lives and dating and relationships and all that kind of stuff. And so I was talking to them about the types of women that they've gotten into real relationships with as opposed to women that they just hooked up with. And I was looking for patterns because I'm a researcher. If you don't know, I'm a market researcher. And so all I do is look for patterns and I do research on different areas and what's going on in dating and what works and what doesn't work. And one of the things that we figured out after talking about, because they'd be like, well, I got into a relationship with her and I got into a relationship with her. And, and these guys were thinking about these women that they got into relationships with and what happened in the beginning stages that led them to actually getting into relationships with women as opposed to just hooking up with them and seeing them as a short-term casual thing. And the thing that ended up coming up for these guys is almost completely unanimously, they all said that they didn't hook up with these women very quickly. It took them a while. They pulled back. They're like, the women were like, oh, they did something. They were connecting with them. The guy really liked them, but it wasn't a really fast kind of hookup situation. They waited. And as they waited, the guys got more invested. And then they started seeing them as women that they actually wanted committed relationships with. Why? Because men value things that they work for and earn. We all do. And so it's very important that you remember that, Karen.